Welcome everyone to Click Moments and Passionate Pursuits The Unfolding, where intuitively guided conversations are followed with feral faith, enthusiasm, and joy, bringing new insights, inspiration, and perspectives along the way. And it's been a bit since we've been on here. It feels like it's probably just been a couple of weeks, but it feels like longer than that, and glad to be back for this discussion. We were starting to have a conversation about something, and we were like, we weren't, you were like, hit record. This is a good conversation. So we're going to keep it going here. So one of the things that really interests us is, for us to make decisions in our life, we have to have a receptivity. We have to have an openness for us to even see that there's an avenue open. So very like the same choices that are available to all of us may not be seen by all of us because we have a lens that says this is a closed door. So we can't even see the path that's right there in front of us. We see a door and somebody else just sees an opening. So sometimes we're making decisions that rub up against other decisions that we've already made, and we've got a new decision that we've made, and we're like, yes, this is an emphatic yes. But when we say yes, we're looking at other decisions that we made, and we're like, wait, how could this now be a yes whenever I've got another yes that I've made that's part of my identity that now is being asked to, like, wait, who do you want to be? Because you can't be both. So now your new emphatic yes makes you make new decisions that maybe you wouldn't have made had you not made that decision definitively, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's get into some specifics.
Okay.
That's you.
Oh, you want me to go into my specific example? Okay.
I've got the theoretical pieces over here, but I want to hear your example and then we can add on.
Okay. All right. So this came up because um, I'm 52 years old. If you didn't know that, I mean, I know a lot of people say I look younger, so shocker. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm 52. And until I was 51, my identity was I am a single woman. Well, I'm a woman without children. And I've chosen to be a woman without children. Like I never wanted to have bear the children myself. And if I was going to have a partner that I had a child with, I was at 50% and I needed somebody that was at 51%. And if somebody was at 51%, I always said that would put me over to 50.5, which we all know you round up and it's solid. Let's keep going. So that never happened. I was never with somebody that we made that mutual decision. And so I've always been a woman who has chosen not to have kids, so much so that I've never even really tried on what it would feel like to be a mother because I never thought that it would be my reality. So I just believe don't try on things and put unnecessary suffering on something that you're choosing not to do. Of course, I could be a good mother. Of course, I could make that choice, but I hadn't. And so I never really let that be what I tried on so that I wouldn't long for it or miss it because it was my choice. Right. So fast forward to now where I meet you and we're friends. And then we look at each other in a new way. And now we've decided to be partners. And I find myself in that partnership and in saying yes, it means that I'm also a mother. And so when I tried that on, it was surprising to me how quickly it made sense. And I just trusted it. And I was like, huh, yeah, like this doesn't feel off or wrong. It doesn't feel like something I'm having to it doesn't feel like something that I'm having to make myself do. It feels like natural, like a next step. But yet it rubbed up against an identity that was like, I mean, you might as well have just said, uh, you're a dude now, or something so like closed and impossible, like it was something so not. who I am. But then I took it on so quick that it's like, wow, there was some part of me that was like right there and was like, oh no, 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 you made a choice on this. But a choice means you could switch it, right? So I'm rambling at this point. You gotta like get
I
me
have ideas. So,
specific.
yeah. So when you brought up this topic, what I heard initially is a bit different than what I hear now. So I'm excited. So what I'm hearing now isn't necessarily that we're asking people to look at something that was an emphatic no as a potential part of their identity. What it really is, in the way that you described it, what I heard was you're talking about something that was an I don't know. And specifically, you even had a list. You even had a list, and it wasn't on your emphatic no's.
Correct. Yeah, that's
So,
true.
yeah, so I think that's important to make a distinction there, because we're not talking about something where you may have previously said, this is not part of who I am.
Correct.
I
Yeah,
don't
let me
want this
explain
to
that.
be part of. Yeah.
Yeah, let me explain that. So I had what I realized was in the universe that when we're general and we say, I just want a really good person to be with. I really want a good partner. Well, there's a lot of people that are good people out there. There actually are a lot of really good people, but that doesn't mean we're compatible. So what I did was is I got specific on what that good person was going to be like. And so I had my emphatic yeses, meaning 100% of those things on the list I wanted in a partner. That's something that I would look for. The emphatic no's were things that I refuse to accept, like drug addiction or doesn't like my family, refuses to accept them. And then I had these are optional, like I would like these, or I don't know, like, but they're on my like, if they do or they don't, we'll work through them. And so having kids was on that list. Now, I will say having kids was on that list, and I thought that they would be grown children.
You
I
did
thought
not make
maybe
the
I would
distinction.
be a grandparent. I didn't realize
You
that
never
it
said
meant
that
small
before.
children. I will just specify that. I was vague, but it was as optional on that list. So some part of me had already done the math on that and said, wait, I've always said that I would love to be a mother under the right circumstances and with the right person. But that just hadn't happened. So I left it on there with that true excavation and realization, that truth for me of, oh, no, 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 no. Like under the right circumstances, yes, but it would have to be the right circumstances.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. That's really important for people to hear. So when you said we were going to have this conversation, I immediately went down this trail of quotes that I've been studying from books I've been reading. And I think that this is a really great way of looking at what we're talking about from a different angle. And so what I'm quoting is Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh and God, an Autobiography by Jerry L. Martin. And so I'm going to string together these quotes in hopes that this will help people hear. So these texts are books that both Jerry and Neil claim to have channeled from God. And take that however you'll take it.
Isn't that kind of like the Bible, though? The Bible was apparently
Yeah.
people. I mean, they're random people like Ruth. It's like you might as well just say Ruth Miller of Bethlehem. I mean, but we just drop the last name and make it, a book in a Bible,
I mean, if you pray and you believe that you get answers, then you also could extrapolate that God is always communicating with us all the time.
Right.
So,
yeah. So we use, I say that just because I think sometimes people have preconceived notions of what channel means, and it really means that you're just communicating with God and you're reporting out on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So this is from Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh. This one is the longest of them. He says, Yet all objective phenomena is drawn to you subconsciously. All events are created by you unconsciously. Every person, place, or thing in your life was drawn to you by you, was self created, if you will, to provide you with the exact and perfect conditions, the perfect opportunity to experience what you next wish to experience as you go about the business of evolving. Nothing can happen. I say to you, nothing can occur in your life which is not a precisely perfect opportunity for you to heal something, create something, or experience something that you wish to heal, create, or experience in order to be who you really are. And the
Mm.
emphasis there is on the who you really are. Okay, so that is the first quote that I wanted to bring in. And then I wanted to have kind of a conversation between these two books. The next quotes I have are from God and Autobiography. And this is Jerry speaking, or actually God speaking to Jerry. He says, I want you to become your best self. What is true is that I accept your need to do whatever you do and take many lives to achieve fulfillment. The goal is to get to the point that you surface your true will, which will coincide with God's. I want nothing other than your fulfillment. That is what you want too. There's a goal for you, an individual path of evolution that I want to help you along. And then, for our Bible readers, Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose," which is everyone who's alive, because otherwise we wouldn't be here experiencing this. So, those are the things I wove together because perhaps these identities are question marks or possibilities. And when something is a possibility and it also coincides with who we truly are or a higher expression of ourselves, then we get the opportunity to say yes to it.
Mm.
And what I love here is there's an emphasis on a perfect opportunity, not on something that has to happen, but that something is being offered as an experience and you get to say yes to it.
Yeah, which means you also get to say no to it.
Yep.
When you get to say yes to it, it can be big and bold and scary and still pique your curiosity and you can still lean in, but it can still be so scary that you can be like, no,
Yeah.
but you get to decide. Like you said, it's an invitation. It's
Mhm.
interesting that you say this because so the context of where we're at in any given moment gives shape to what we'll decide. So where we're at, like if I were to have maybe been offered that as a previous version of me in my 20s, for example, I may not have been at a space where I would have been ready for it. I don't know. Who knows? But now at this juncture, if I think about where I was at, I was making lists of what was important. And I had solicited that upon myself, right, to make that list. While I was doing that, one of the things that I recognized was, I had just lost my grandmother, less than a year prior to that. Um, and I was in a place where I was like, now what? That was a defining moment for me. It wasn't quite the same now what when I had left other relationships. It's a different now what. It's like a deeper my identity was shaken and a big part of where I felt love and outlet and receiving love was now gone in this realm, right? And one of the things that was left was, okay, this is huge. When I was a kid, I grew up in a small town and we had a lot of routines and we had structure and every week it looked the same. I did the same things. I went with this family members on the weekend. I had these interactions. There were things that I look forward to in my week. and I was part of a big family. There was like 50 to 100 people in my family in my small town that I could ride my bike around to, or around the holidays, we would all be together. So there was a lot of family around. And I was missing that. Losing my grandmother, I was keenly aware from losing my other grandmother that we always said, my cousin said, when you lose your grandmother, like something in our family is lost deeply. And it's hard to keep that. It's like they were glue that kept us all together.
Mm.
And what I realized was I wanted that family again. Now I knew I couldn't have that big family like what I had, but I knew that my little self felt so much belonging and love being a part of that family. And I knew that if I was in my traditional family, I wasn't going to find that again. That we weren't going to have that because we weren't all in the same place like that. So fast forward to now, and I'm looking to build a community. I want land. I want friends and family close. And my list left space for even saying kids is on this optional list, left space for this sponsoring thought
Mm.
of I want a bigger family. I'm missing being a part of family, right? That's like in me deeply. So I think that's important to say in here because it was like an unspoken sponsoring thought that was rattling around deeply originally, and then it's kind of at the surface now in the midst of this list, but it's not listed on there. This deep need for family.
So something we say a lot is we get to we get to describe the what and the why, but not the how and the when. And
Mm-hmm.
so if your sponsoring thought was I'm missing this big family, what am I missing? I'm missing that the family and the connection. And why is I want to experience that love. And then the how you left space for. And the universe said, well, here, this is one way that you could experience it. And
Mm-hmm.
what I love about working with God in this way and co-creating or, co-creating with the universe is that we get opportunities and they get presented over and over and over and over and over again. And if they're for us, we're not going to miss them.
Mm-hmm.
The universe gives us the how and the when, and we may say no to it. And then we may get a different how and when.
Mm-hmm.
But those things, if they're for us and they're for our highest good and they're part of our best self and they're an identity of who we really are, they'll continue coming back
Mm.
over and over and over so that we continue getting opportunities to integrate them and to become them.
Okay, that's interesting what you said though. They'll continue coming back. It doesn't mean that the same situation will continue to come back.
Exactly. Yep. But in
So
the universe,
you
it's different. We have this okay, go ahead. I'll think.
No, many options. All I was gonna say was is we have many options. Like it could be one thing comes in front of you and you're like, wait, wait, wait. I need a slight specifier. I need to be more clear. Here's the specifier. Okay, I'm releasing now. But if I would have said, I want a woman who lives in Asheville and she has under 2 kids and whatever, then I'm so narrowed that I miss a very opportunity that could align, but I've put myself in it so clearly that that spaciousness doesn't allow for the biggest possibility to actually come through. I'm limiting it when I give too many specs and details.
Yep. My thought was just that our human instinct, our egoic instinct is to attach to things, to get very attached to things. And so when we do that, like you said, we kind of put these artificial limits on the way the universe can work. And the universe is completely unlimited, is totally infinite, is always abundant. So that's like, I don't know, man. That's like going up to the universal ATM and going, oh, well, I only just want like some $20 bills. That's all I want. The universe is like, well, if you wanted more, we could provide you more. But if that's what you want, then that's what you're going to get. Sure. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like, I forget which book I read this in. It's one of these books. But the universe is like a giant copy machine. It's like a giant Xerox machine. And
Like
so
the 3D
whatever,
printer.
yeah. So whatever thought you put out, whatever desire, it just it just does what you put out. It's energetically aligned and matching whatever you're putting out. It does not discriminate.
And it's not just desire, though. It's whatever emotion that you put out is what the universe not presumes, but because it's precise, it matches to it because you're saying in rumination, you're saying, I'm choosing rumination because I want the experience of rumination. So the universe gives you more to ruminate on. You're like saying, that's the desire. Whatever you submit or emit, then whatever we emit, we're saying into the universe more, more, because we're allowed to have the conscious thought and we're allowed to make any decision that we want. It won't necessarily be for our highest good, but the universe will comply and allow for us to choose the life that we want or we say we want at any given time, and we get to change our mind. We get to change. But back to, and I think I wanted to talk about this because I think we can get so rigid into our identity
Hmm.
that the very things that we do want, we don't realize might surpass our current understanding of ourselves.
Mm.
If we're going to receive something new, it requires us to be a different version of us. And if we insist on being the same version of us, then we can't receive the new because we're an old version that's not really wired unless we make some adjustments to receive this without resistance.
Mm.
We,
Wow.
right?
Oh my gosh, hold on, just to take in what you just said. Unless we make adjustments to receive this without resistance. How do you do that?
The first thing is to recognize where there may be some.
Mm.
So the first thing I ask, and you know that I'm known for asking the question, is this true? Right? So the first thing I ask myself is this true? And in a real genuine way, not in a combative, is this true? It's a real gentle, wait, is this true for me? Because that question rattles at our reality and it allows for it to shake just enough for us to go, oh, this is kind of an illusion that it has to be any one way. So even asking that question allows for us to third person step back and look at the situation and ask, is this true? Meaning, do I want it to be true? Is this still true? Because this has been my truth, but wow. So put that kind of lens on what I was saying before. Is this true that I'm somebody who doesn't have kids? Yeah, it is true who I've been, but I'm capable if I choose differently to be a parent. Would I want to be a parent? I'm like, well, I've already said I would be a parent under the right circumstances. Is there anything in front of me that says that these couldn't be the right circumstances? is there my emphatic no list? Is there anything? I look at the emphatic no list and I'm like, ooh, everything on the emphatic yes is true. Everything on the emphatic no is not there. This is something on the middle list. I'm not going to give it an answer, but I'm going to give it space to see where it goes because there's nothing in me that says stop. So for me, it's about asking the question, making sure it doesn't rattle up against something that is on my emphatic no. Like for people that are like, I don't want to be a parent. If you don't want to be a parent and that's something that you choose, and this is somebody that you love in my situation, but yet they have kids and it rubs up against you, that may not be right for you. That's for you to decide. But that question that is this true allows for you to make a conscious, aware decision and to determine, is this true that it's not part of my identity or it couldn't be part of my identity? And then the second piece of that is a stance of spaciousness. Like, you don't have to make a decision right now. It's like when you go to college and they want you to get a major and you choose like some major and they say, just choose something and then you can change by this date.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, at some point you have to make a decision, but you don't have to decide right away. You can actually just leave enough space once you make the decision that it doesn't go against some fundamental decision that you've made that is who you've decided to be.
Mm.
So here's maybe a better example. You meet somebody and they say, I really want somebody to be a non-binary, like whatever it is, they want you to be the essence of who your identity is. It's like, whoa, that's not me.
Mm.
That's asking you to be something that you're not. And by being it, it would betray who you are. So something can't betray who we are, like our spirituality, our deep belief system. But as long as it's not in there and it's on this list of something that we're open to receiving and experiencing, now you just have to make a decision. Do you want to do it? Do you want to leave space for it? And that's what I decided in that moment. Like, no, I've never thought of myself as being a mom of 4 kids. Now, I've thought of myself as being a parent of maybe 1 or 2, but I've never thought of myself as being a mom of 4 kids. But here's the thing, I haven't not. I've just not given that any airtime.
Mm.
And then once I realized, wait, can you walk away from this person who you love deeply without giving it an opportunity to really see, like, God brought this relationship to you and these children to you. Aren't you curious? What about me attracted that to my life? Like, I know now that I attracted you. I like it was all the way around a mutual attraction. So knowing that, I have to be curious. Wait, let me see how this feels.
Mm.
And in that space of receptivity, you just walk forward, one decision at a time. In love, I think you say this, like, what would love decide? Is that how you say it?
And what would love do? What would
What
love
would love do? I love that. Like, instead of like, what would fear do? Ooh, how can I act in the absolute most fear?
do?
No, what would love to do in this moment? And when you operate from that perspective, that's your highest self
Yeah.
over and over.
And very much so, I want people to hear this too. Love for you could have said, let her go. Let them find someone who is right.
Yeah.
That would have been love if that was
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So it's
Great
important
points.
that we understand that what would love do now is just for us. Sometimes the most loving thing that we can do for someone is to allow them to experience greater love, and it's not with us. And that's difficult, but it's part of our evolution. It's part of becoming the best version of ourselves. is to
That's
allow everyone equitably to have access to that love. Yeah.
that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, that's a really important piece for people to recognize that self-love is always first in loving others, right? So if it goes against the core of the experience that you're choosing to have here, you get to make that choice.
Yeah.
And then other people get an opportunity to love you in the way that you like, trusting that you're choosing love that's right for you. Then it's like, if I'm on the receiving end of somebody else making a decision like that, then I also have to know it's for me too.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Yeah. Because you hear self love and it may sound selfish. And the truth is, if I'm acting in the greatest love of myself, then I am also acting in the best interest and the greatest love of that other person. Because, of course, I want for them to have the greatest experience that they can have. And if it's not with me, then why would I keep them in a place where they're stuck?
Yeah,
It's not love.
right. Yeah. That's
I,
fear.
yeah. I also wanted to bring up that there's a great deal of like soul searching and work that goes into getting clear before we walk into these really big decisions. And it's not like the decisions are going to pause for us while we get clear on this. But I kind of had this note of what would it look like to search and discover the possibilities of who your higher self might be,
Mm,
and get a little bit clearer on those things before you start making these big shifts. Again, because the universe will respond to whatever it is that we're putting out, why not find the clearest signal we can transmit that feels the highest and best for us, with the understanding that we're evolving. So the clearest signal that I was transmitting 15, 20 years ago is absolutely not anything like the clearest signal that I'm transmitting now.
right.
But that's because I've put in the work in evolving and spiritually growing.
Yeah. It's huge. It's like if you only do one thing, continue to enhance and cultivate your relationship with the spiritual part of you inside that connects to the spiritual energy outside of you. And when you have that connection of being like connected in love, trusting, and leaving this openness for whatever is evolving, like knowing when you're on the love frequency and you are genuinely walking down the street and you're going to get a cup of coffee and you're looking at the flowers and all you feel is love and you're grateful that you're walking and your legs are working and you get there and you're so excited that they've got the best cutest cup of coffee because they've done the beautiful little leaf in it and they've done it's just the barista has put in so much love in it. You're sipping it, you're receiving it. When you walk through the world and you're like every little thing, you're appreciating it. And you know that you're a beacon on that frequency. You can trust that if something comes to you as an invitation and you're curious, you can trust that it's for you and that you get to, when you're curious and you peek up and you lean in and you're like a little confused by it, you can trust that you brought this to you and you're on a frequency to be curious and literally lean in. And even if something weird happens, you can go, wow, that was interesting. What did that teach me? Wow, what kind of opportunity do I have to grow so that the next thing that's coming towards me, I'm prepared for it? Like it's constantly this opportunity to look at what it is, not from a victim mentality, but from a completely empowered seat as a creator and know that this is either contrast or for me, but either way, it's for me.
Oh my gosh, I love that you just said as a creator because it pinged a vision that I had the other day in meditation of our role as creators. And so what I saw was even as children, before we're really, really able to be like spiritually aware of our co-creator status, it's like we waddle, crawl into life with like a paint by number. And it's like, okay, here, just follow these. Follow these. You're still creating. You're still creating. You have a hand in creating, but you're kind of following the lines and you're following the suggested colors. And maybe once or twice you'll choose something bold and different. But generally you're following the outlines.
And then the younger you are, the more messy you are, the more you're like, no.
I'm gonna see what happens when I mix all these colors together and go like this on the yeah. And but as a child we can do that, and it's like we're not so attached to the outcome of what happens when we do that.
Yeah.
But then I got this idea of like, oh, but then we start to master our ability to work with paint and with a brush and with different canvases. And then we start to branch out and use whatever metaphor you want here, a creator of any type. And then we get to the point where we've created these beautiful masterpieces, and now we're like the curator of an art museum. Like we don't even need to be the one who creates them. And now we're just collecting these beautiful masterpieces. And it's like the different parts of our journey through these life experiences. And when you're fully awake and really aware of your ability to co-create, now all of a sudden you're not just co-creating this experience, you're co-creating with this collective experience that we're having. And that's like the art gallery. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, look at all of these collective creations. What happens when we bring them all together? It's like a symphony. It's like an
Yeah.
art gallery, like a museum. Like, wow, look at the picture that we get to create together. And we've stepped even beyond the individual life that we're creating. And then I saw this like God's eye view of what this looks like. It's like when you're a human, you see the sun rise and the sun set, and it's a day, and it's got a nice little neat package of a day. And then you look at it from God's perspective and you see there is no sunrise and sunset. There is no boundary on the life experience or the day experience. It's it's a cycle that just
Mhm.
goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And it's just continually going and continually evolving. And there's no boundaries on these experiences. What we see is what, as a human, we're capable of seeing, what we can hold within this one experience.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was a beautiful way of getting to picture becoming that highest self. Like it's not just this one moment, it's not just this one year, it's not just this lifetime,
Mhm.
and it's beyond just ourself. It's a collective evolution towards, I don't know, the greatest expression of love
Mhm.
that we can collectively approximate at each moment.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I guess closing thoughts for me on this topic are that the decisions that we can make when we put boundaries around them, when we are holding on to our identity, we have to be careful to only hold on to really firmly that which we absolutely will not let go of. But the rest of it, you'd be surprised at how much of it is variable. And if we were really honest with ourselves, we would allow ourselves to be taken a bit, right? That we could get happier, that we could experience more joy. And I always think when we experience more joy, we're giving more joy. Like anytime we're receiving more joy, we're able to give more joy. So the happier we are, the happier other people in our presence will be. Right. So the more holistically we can be happy in our relationships, our partnerships, our friendships, our jobs, our choices of where we live and how we live, all those decisions, if we cannot be paint by number and we cannot do what we've been handed, the picture that we've been handed, and instead go, ooh, I wonder what would happen if we paint outside the lines. I see other people painting outside the lines. In fact, there aren't any lines. How did you get that piece of
Mm.
paper? It looks like just a blank canvas. When we get to that point, we can make a picture and then we can be like, make another picture. Maybe I'll just make some adjustments. You know, we can do whatever we want, but but when we leave it blank, then that's where something completely unique that we'll even be like, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at what we like, look at what we created. That's where you won't be surprised. Like when you do a paint by number and it's pretty, but yet it's still a paint by number. It's the same image you've been painting for 50 years. But if you have no lines and you paint something completely new, you're always going to be like, oh, you know, like, so we're leaving space for God, and the awe is always God, you know, always. How about you? Final thoughts?
That was perfect. Special thanks to Asheville artist Melissa Moss for our cover art. You can learn more about Melissa and her work at melissamossart.com. And thanks to Cloud Cult for our intro and outro music from their song There's So Much Energy in Us. Learn more about Cloud Cult at cloudcult.com. And thank you for listening. And until next time, friends, peace, love, light.